Ranking Member Shabbat, and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Robert Daly. I am president of Call Roofing and Sheet Metal, a small business in Kansas City, Kansas. I also serve as president of the National Roofing Contractors Association. NRCA welcomes the opportunity to testify on the growing paperwork burden of small business. NRCA not only represents over 4,600 contractor members, but by virtue of what we accomplish, ultimately affects over 20,000 roofing contractors in the United States. Our burden also mirrors that probably of every specialty contractor in the U.S. as well. Let me state at the outset that small business owners recognize the need for sensible regulation in order to protect employees, consumers, and the environment. However, it is critical that the implementation of regulations and the required paperwork be governed by the type of common sense that small business people must employ every day if we are to survive. It is not an exaggeration to say that small businesses are drowning in a rising flood of paperwork. My experience bears this out, and statistics back it up. Paper files that I must keep that used to be 1/4 or 1/2 inch thick are now anywhere from 6 to 12 inches. The paperwork requirements in our business are at least 10 times what they were 20 years ago. If you are a small business person like myself, forget about filing cabinets. Instead, you need to think in terms of entire storage rooms to accommodate your paperwork. Paperwork requirements in our relation with general contractors, or GCs as we call them, demonstrate the challenges we face. Just a few years ago, we had to provide general contractors with duplicates or at most 3 copies of government paperwork. Today, we often have to provide 6 copies of this paperwork. There have been instances in which my firm provided 3 copies of certain paperwork to a general contractor. They needed 6. Rather than copying the 3 copies they already had, demanded that we provide those 3 copies. It appears that the further down the food chain you are, the more one has to produce, while others up the food chain tend to manage things. Therefore, not only does the burden fall on us, but also we have to maintain copies for our own records. With the onslaught of government regulatory agencies to include, but not entirely cohesive of everything, is we have OSHA to deal with in regards to material safety data sheets, in regards to safety policies that must be placed on the job in a written form. We have DOT daily logs. We have forms regarding disposal of materials in regards to EPA. The Department of Homeland Security requires that we file out forms for transportation of certain materials. Prevailing wage jobs require that we fill out weekly wage reports, and the list goes on and on. I understand that these entities' mission is to improve worker safety and the security of our country, and we fully subscribe to that. But there must be a way to streamline the proliferation of paperwork while still achieving that goal. The paperwork burden is most acute for small construction firms that wish to work on federal projects. In my experience, 10 to 15 years ago, our firm would often bid federal projects, and the paperwork was manageable. Now, paperwork requirements for federal projects are so excessive that a firm has a difficult choice to make. You either don't bid on federal contracts, or if you're going to bid on federal contracts, you must hire additional staff to deal with the extra paperwork demands. This drives up overhead costs and puts small businesses at a disadvantage to larger competitors. Small businesses' decision not to bid leaves the government with less qualified contractors to choose from. Small businesses often do not have the resources capable of tracking government regulations. Even diligent small business owners may inadvertently make an error or miss deadlines associated with government paperwork. It is particularly disturbing to be hit with fines or penalties for minor inadvertent paperwork violations. One of my pet peeves is the people who knock on my doors and come in and start crying to me about how the river is dirty, but nobody suggests how to clean it up. I think one of the things we'd like to do as a part of this is make some recommendations as to what we would like to see done. We recommend that Congress provide increased funding for the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs at the Office of Management and Budget. OIRA has had some success over the years in reducing or streamlining paperwork requirements. However, the office has been constrained in recent years by declining budgets. To address the problem of inadvertent paperwork violations, NRCA urges Congress to consider the Small Business Paperwork Relief Act of 2007. The bill would direct federal agencies to not impose civil fines for certain first-time paperwork violations. The bill does not exempt businesses from paperwork requirements, but merely gives an owner acting in good faith some leeway to correct a first-time mistake. This is a common-sense approach to reducing the paperwork burden on small businesses while still providing for the safety and health of workers in our communities. NRCA urges the committee members to take a serious look at this bill as a proposal that could be taken as a first step to address the paperwork burden on small businesses.